of Trackside as this new season has kicked off. Back with Michael Waltrip, Darrell Waltrip, and Jeff Hammond.
Michael, we've got to hear the rest of that story because, again, it was kind of like we were teasing the whole thing. It sounded like something that you and Darrell would kind of come up with.
Well, I was laying in my bed at Charles Ford one morning, and if you're watching Sterling and Schrader, yes, Buffy was there. I want to get your attention, but and I told Buffy, I said, you know, Darrell's team just got sold. It's shutting down. Park just got hurt. Dale needs a driver. Darrell needs a ride. This is a match made in heaven. But I said, I guarantee you, if I tell Dale he should call Darrell, Dale say, I ain't calling Darrell. And if I call Darrell and tell him he should call Dale, he wouldn't do it. So then I had to figure out how to make them each think it was the other one's idea. So I called Dale and I said, Darrell really wants to drive your car. And then I called Darrell and said, I think Dale really wants you to drive his car. So then I just hoped that they didn't get to talking and figure out what I had done.
What he did was he called me up and he said,
who, Michael or Dale?
No, Michael called me up and he said, if Earnhardt called you and asked you to drive his car, would you? And I said, hell no.
Yeah.
I said, there ain't no way. And he said, I knew that's what you'd say, but now listen, I got a plan. He said, I got a plan.
I'm going to work all this out, and it's going to be good for you, and I know it'll be good for Dale. And look what happened.
Yeah.
I was out there leading at Pocono in 1998.
5 to go. Almost had that bad boy won in that car right there, and that's another story, too.
I was going to go back and say, you said that was a match made in heaven. Are you sure about that?
I was positive that they needed each other. They were the perfect two to team up at that point. But I knew they didn't think so. I needed to convince them that was the right thing.
And Michael,
to do.
let's put it in perspective. Because they were such fierce rivals and so proud. I mean, back in the early, mid-'80s, it was like Ali and Frazier. There's no way they could work together.
And I talk about it in the book. I tell him that Darrell let me drive his Nationwide car at Dover, and I won. And I went to Dale, and I said, you know, Darrell let me drive his Nationwide car, and I won. And I don't even think I had to add the I won part. I just had to say that, and Dale said, well, you can drive mine then. You can drive my car. So they were very, very fierce rivals and very competitive. And honestly, early on, they didn't like each other so well. At all, I would say is fair, but they grew to love one another and respect each other, and then that time they spent together in '98, that really helped build your relationship.
I think the ironic thing about it is Dale saw me struggling. The last 2 or 3 years I drove, I had nothing. I didn't have a real great team, and I didn't have the money to spend, so I was struggling. And Dale did to me just what he did to you. He knew that if he put me in that one car with the cars he had and the people he had, that I could get the job done. And that lifted me up like nothing had ever happened to me before. And when he did the same thing to me, when he put that big arm around me after I run that good at Pocono, I mean, you couldn't have given, that's the greatest gift I ever got in my life.
And all I wanted when I won that Daytona 500 was that.
I know. I think about that all the time, about you waiting for him to come.
I wanted him to hug me.
Michael, you said it went from being the greatest to the worst day of your life. I can't imagine. You said humans aren't supposed to understand that.
No, and I don't. You know, and if there's just so many reasons for that, Steve. Mainly is because of how sweet Dale was. No one knew that, but I was sitting by my mom's side the day my daddy died, and Dale drove up just to hold her hand and say, "You must be a special lady," and he was a special man because y'all raised these two boys like you did. So he just did a lot of things that people didn't know about, and I tried to. That's what my book was all about. And Darrell knows I never really called Darrell and asked him for any input, nor did I anyone else. It was my story. I wanted to tell it. I knew that Dale and Darrell were really fierce competitors, and I knew the story well enough, I thought, to tell it from my perspective, and then to see them become friends and us to become such great friends. It's just a heartwarming story.
You know, it's amazing what we went through with that guy, and to end up the way things did. It really was amazing.
We'll have more with Michael Waltrip when we come back. We're going to talk about Michael Waltrip Racing, the Daytona 500, and much more when Trackside continues. It's presented by Walmart. Trackside, presented by Walmart, back at the Daytona International Speedway. A little bit later on, Brian Vickers will join us, and Michael Waltrip here prior to doing a little bit of racing. Jeff Hammond and I were talking backstage. Jeff, I know you have something that Michael needs.
Yeah, Mike, you may need these, and you know, just wanted to make sure that you got them back. You know, we got a little speed logo, but I think everybody needs to understand. Does this bring back any memories?
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
I remember that well.
You want to explain that to everybody? Because
in the book, I wrote of how I watched my brother Daryl race his car everywhere. And I said, I know how to race. I've seen Daryl do it. I can do it. I know I can. And so I'm going to my first go-kart race. My brother Bobby's going to let me race his go-kart. And I'm laying in bed that night, and I'm not that bright. We all know that. And I'm sitting there thinking, which side's the brake on and which side's the gas? Okay, brake right, gas left. I know that. But what if I forget it? So I took a big magic marker and drew G and B on my shoes so that when I went down the straightaway, I would know which one to push on. Because I did know how to do it, I thought, but there was a few technicalities I thought I might ought to brush up on.
But the thing is right about technicalities, I want to congratulate you. 25 straight Daytona 500s, and buddy, you look just like you did when you first showed up back here driving that number 15 for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. You looked awesome yesterday.
Yeah, I was
really showed some muscle.
I was very confident about how to go about racing that car on yesterday, but then I got thrown a curve on Saturday night in the shootout when I got wrecked because I was thinking, what did I do wrong? You know, Tony Stewart isn't just going to crash me, and there I was wrecked, and I was so mad because I didn't want to wreck at all during 2 weeks, and then right off the bat I did. But, you know, you just push a guy in the wrong place. It doesn't matter who he is. Even Kyle Busch got spun out because of a bad push.
He's just like a Walter. He doesn't like getting in his own pocket to fix his wrecks.
Oh, no, and it's coming out of his pocket, too.
Right.
Tell the folks about how, you know, we talked about the spotter and how they're having to drive 2 cars. But you and David had a little bit different plan. Tell us about how that went.
Well, we worked with our spotters just like we're supposed to, but then we had a common channel where with 2 cars were together, those 2 drivers could go to that channel and 1 spotter would be there with us. And so I was leading David, and there was traffic up ahead, and I said, I think I'm going high. Hang with me. Just push me. I don't know where I'm going, but push, push, push. And our goal is if we have to stop or get on the brakes, you say, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it gives him a chance to get off of you without wrecking you. And then also if you say, I'm going to go to the middle or I'm going to go low, that guy knows exactly what you're doing. As the dude running in second, wide open over 200 miles an hour, you can't see anything. So you're totally dependent on the car you're pushing to direct you. And if you know where that guy's going, it makes it a lot safer. It makes you, as the pusher, much more confident in shoving that guy.
Michael, is it that much different than what restrictor plate race? I mean, you always run close together. You're always pushing. You could never see. Is it that much different this year?
Daryl, I came here in '87 for the first time. We ran 205 miles an hour in an '87 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. That was a handful. We couldn't pass each other. We couldn't get near each other. We just ran around the track. Then I raced when they had plates, and we were all in a big glob, and that was a mess. This is like a hybrid of the two. You know, we're running around there wide open with a guy pushing us. The pack isn't as big, but it's way more intense as the driver because you're sitting there pushing, looking at your temperature gauge, listening to all this information, trying to sort out where you're going and what's going on. So for the driver, I think it might be the hardest thing we've ever done. But for the fans, I think when you put all 43 of them together and they try to figure out how to win the greatest race in the world, you're going to see a show.
I think you're right.
And I hope I'm all up in the middle of it again.
Oh, you'll be up in the middle of it.
Hey, Daryl, speaking of show, Steve, I believe Michael's got to.
Oh, he's got to get going.
Where are you going?
I got to go get the number 15 NASCAR.com Toyota truck, and I'm going to go race these boys in a truck at Daytona. Are you going to go up in the booth?
I'm going to go in the booth.
Okay, I got a camera, so just follow along. We'll
do the
see
same
how we
thing.
figure this out.
Let's do the same thing we did in 2001. I'll be in the booth. You be on the track. I'll call you home, brother.
Okay, come on, Mikey.
Come on, Mikey.
Good luck,
You
Michael.
can do it, Mikey.